My mother threw herself against the driver's side door. It was jammed shut in the mud. I tried mine. Stuck, too. I looked up desperately at the hole in the roof. It might have been an exit, but the exits were sizzling and smoking. "Climb out the passenger side," my mother told me. "Percy, you have to run. Do you see that big tree?" "What?" Another flash of lightning, and through the smoking hole in the roof I saw the tree she meant, a huge, White House Christmas tree-sized pine tree at the crest of the nearest hill. "That's the property line," my mom said. "Get over that hill and you'll see a big farmhouse down in the valley. Run and don't look back. Yell for help. Don't stop until you reach the door. Mom, you're coming too." Her face was pale, her eyes as sad as when she looked at the ocean. "No!" I shouted. "You are coming with me. Help me carry Grover." "Food," Grover moaned a little louder. The man with the blanket on his head kept coming towards us, making his grunting, snorting noises. As he got closer, I realized he couldn't be holding a blanket over his head, because his hands, huge, meaty hands, were swinging at his sides. There was no blanket, meaning the bulky, fuzzy mass that was too big for his head was his head, and the points that looked like horns. "He doesn't want us," my mother told me. "He wants you. Besides, I can't cross the property line." But, we don't have time, Percy. Go, please." I got mad then. Mad at my mother. Mad at Grover the goat. At the thing with the horns that was lumbering towards us slowly and deliberately like a bull. I climbed across Grover and pushed open the door in the rain. "We're going together. Come on, Mom." "I told you." "Mom, I'm not leaving you. Help me with Grover." I didn't wait for her to answer. I scrambled outside, dragging Grover from the car. He was surprisingly light, but I couldn't have carried him very far if my mom hadn't come to my aid. Together, we draped Grover's arms over our shoulders and started uphill through the wet, waist-high grass. Glancing back, I got my first clear look at the monster. He was 7 foot tall, easily, his arms and legs like something from the cover of Muscle Man magazine, bulging biceps and triceps and a couple other seps, all stuffed like baseballs under vein-whipped skin. He wore no clothes except for an underwear. I mean, bright white Fruit of the Looms, which would have looked funny, except for the top half of his body was so scary. Coarse brown hair started about his belly button and got thicker as it reached his shoulders. His neck was a mass of muscle and fur leading up to an enormous head, which had a snout as long as my arm, snotty nostrils with a gleaming brass ring, cruel black eyes, and horns, enormous black and white horns with points you couldn't get from an electric sharpener. I recognized the monster, all right. He'd been in one of the first stories Mr. Bruner told us about, but he couldn't be real. I blinked the rain out of my eyes. That's Facet-Face son," my mother said. "I wish I'd known how badly they wanted to kill you." "But he's the Min. Don't say his name," she warned. "Names have power." The pine tree was still too far away, 100 yards uphill at least. I glanced behind me again. The bull man hunched over our car, looking in the windows. Or not looking exactly. More like snuffling, nuzzling. I wasn't sure why he bothered, since we're only about 50 feet away. "Food," Grover moaned. "Shh," I told him. "Mom, what's he doing? Doesn't he see us?" "His sight and hearing are terrible," she said. "He goes by smell, but he'll figure out where we are soon enough." As if on cue, the bull man bellowed in rage. He picked up Gabe's Camaro by the torn roof, the chassis creaking and groaning. He raised the car over his head and threw it down the road. It slammed into the wet asphalt and skidded a shower of sparks for about half a mile before coming to a stop. Then the gas tank exploded. "Not a scratch," I remember Gabe saying. "Oops." "Percy," my mom said, "when he sees us, he'll charge. Wait until the last second, then jump out of the way, directly sideways. He can't change his directions very well once he's charging. Do you understand?" "How do you know all this?" "I've been worried about an attack like this for a long time. I should have expected this. I was selfish keeping you near me." "Keeping me near you, but—" Another bellow of rage, and the bullman started tromping uphill. He'd smelled us. The pine tree was only a few more yards, but the hill was getting steeper and slicker, and Grover wasn't getting any lighter. The bullman closed in. Another few seconds and he'd be on top of us. My mother must have been exhausted, but she shouldered Grover. "Go, Percy, separate. Remember what I said." I didn't want to split up, but I had the feeling she was right. It was our only chance. I sprinted to the left, turned, and saw the creature bearing down on me. His black eyes glowed with hate. He reeked like rotten meat. He lowered his head and charged, those razor-sharp horns aimed straight at my chest.